On second thought, let's not watch this episode. 'Tis a silly episode. Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Shore Leave, which is episode 18 of season 1 of Star Trek The Original Series. This video is part of a series of videos where I review every episode of the original series in order, one episode at a time. In this video, I'll cover the episode Shore Leave. So Shore Leave is the episode where the Enterprise is exploring a planet for possible shore leave, and then things start coming to life, weird things are happening, and eventually they come to the conclusions that whatever people imagine, it becomes a reality. People are getting hunted by a samurai, a World War II fighter jet, Don Juan, a knight, and all this crazy stuff starts happening, and people are dying, and Kirk is freaking out. But eventually the owner of the planet comes out and says, "Oh, you misunderstand, this is just an amusement park, it's just meant to, you know, come and relax where your fantasies come to life," and then everything's okay. So they beam everyone down to have shore leave and enjoy the planet. So I always bring up my sister talks very fondly of this episode and talks about how she has nostalgia for it and that she used to watch this as a kid, and so it makes her kind of like this episode more, and, you know, the fond memories of watching this as a kid. I don't have that. I never liked this episode. Ever. I think the first time I saw it was when I was around 12, 13, so I guess I was a kid, but still, even then, I didn't like it. This just seemed like 60s cheese to me. And it seems silly. And of course there's a lot of logical issues with it. And I just was never on board with, like, you know, McCoy seeing a white rabbit and them seeing a knight and a tiger and all this other stuff. It just, I don't know. It just never seemed that appealing. It just seemed like rather 60s cheese, especially like the white rabbit, which was clearly a guy in a rabbit suit. But, you know, it's the 60s, but I don't know. I guess the cheesy tone of this episode sort of accentuates the cheesiness of the original series props, I would say. For me, anyway. So, and this has been compared to episodes like Where No One Has Gone Before over in TNG, and If Wishes Were Horses over in DS9. Now, If Wishes Were Horses is also very terrible. It's a terrible episode, so I will sing no praise for it. However, I will be as bold to say Where No One Has Gone Before is better than this episode. I think it clearly is. It was just more interesting, it's more intriguing, and I think they did more interesting things with people seeing people's imaginations coming to life, where here it's just silly. Now, here's my larger issue, my larger point with this episode is, in this episode, people are imagining things that kill them, that could kill them. In fact, McCoy actually dies, and I think that Martinez dies as well, but then, you know, at the end of the episode they're fine again. But here's the thing: if someone wants to imagine something to have fun, like the reveal at the end of this episode, the dude was like, "Oh, we're an advanced species, and we created this planet so we can relax and have fun and imagine things that come to life." Why would the planets focus on people's imagining of things that, like, could kill them? Like, all right, so there's the thing with Finnegan, and he beats the shit out of Captain Kirk, and Kirk, like, seems to enjoy it. So I will I'll let that one slide. I'll buy that one because, in fact, they even point out after Kirk is like all bloody and has his shirt ripped because, of course, we need to see Shatner's chest. But anyway, after he's all bloody, Spock comes up and is like, "Did you enjoy it?" And he said, "Yes, I did." Now, it is, yeah. So I'm a bit skirty, iffy on this one because Kirk is like really bloody and has his shirt ripped, so I think it's just silly that he would enjoy it. But hey, who am I to, tell people how they take enjoyment? Maybe he does really enjoy having the shit beat out of him, like people enjoy boxing. So there we go. Like, so I can buy that. That's fine. Maybe that's what he always wanted to do. He always wanted to get in this bloody fist fight with his old Starfleet Academy, bully. Fine. But other than that, we have a fighter jet doing a strafing run and shooting these two people who are hanging out there. How is that fun? And then before then, those people were being chased by a tiger, who they seriously thought the tiger was gonna like kill them and rip them to shreds. How is that fun? Sulu was running around and all of a sudden a samurai popped up out of nowhere and started chasing him with the sword. How is that fun? And what else do we have? Oh, Black Knight challenges McCoy to a joust when McCoy doesn't have any thing to joust with, doesn't have a horse or sword or anything, and the knight comes charging at him and simply just kills him. How is that fun? So my point is, all these things are happening. The reason why all these life-threatening things are happening is because the plot wants to create tension. At the episode, the writers want to create a sense of tension, and in fact, Kirk is like on edge. The whole crew is on edge. They're freaking out. They're like, "What the fuck is going on?" And that's the whole point. So there can be tension, so people can be on edge, so there can be suspense. And at the end of the episode, it's just revealed it's only a game. Essentially, that's the ending of this episode. I don't know why people rail against it and move along home and don't seem to have an issue with it here. In fact, I personally have more of an issue with it here because I think it tracks more in Move Along Home than it does in this episode. So the ending is this dude comes out and is like, "Oh no, this is just an amusement park. This is just here for people to relax and have fun." And this is when they throw out an excuse. They do try to come up with a lame excuse as to why they were not having fun and in fact were fearful of their lives and thought they were going to die. The lame excuse that they give is, "Oh well, you don't understand how to use the planet. You didn't know that whatever you imagined came to life, but now that you know, you'll be able to use it smartly, and you know that your lives are in known danger, so you won't be freaked out and on edge." And so that's the excuse they give. That's what I say to that excuse. I'm sorry. That is contrived writing to the max, to the extreme. No. So I'm sorry, but first of all, let me circle back to that thing. But first of all, why the fuck did this dude wait until this moment to pop out and say, "Hey, guess what? This is an amusement planet." Now, again, they give another lame excuse for this. They say, "Oh, I didn't know. I didn't realize that you didn't know what was going on, and had I known, I would have come earlier." So throughout the episode, we see a TV antenna. I don't know, someone's trying to get good reception on their bunny ears TV for some reason. But anyway, we're meant to believe that it's scanning the crew's thoughts, and they use a bunny ears antenna. Dude. But anyway, low-hanging fruit, I know. But anyway, they use this to scan people's thoughts. So he was aware. They physically showed us that people were going around purposely scanning their thoughts, and they were meant to believe there's this underground cavern. In fact, this is very Westworld-esque, actually. Anyway, we're meant to believe there's this underground cavern where they create. Like, it's not like where no one's gone before, or If Wishes Were Horses, where this is like just energy beings that just conjure something like out of thin air. We're meant to believe these are like mechanical, physical matter that's being created in a cavern underground. And so they were going around scanning their minds. They were creating these things purposely for these people, and they had no idea that these people weren't aware of what was going on. Bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm going to call bullshit on this. That is the most ridiculous excuse, lame excuse I've heard, to have this stupid contrived plot. There's no way these people didn't know what was going on this whole time. They knew that Kirk didn't know what was going on. So why the hell did he not come up like the second the landing party being down, when McCoy and Sulu were down there? Why didn't he come up, reveal himself, be, hey guys, how's it going? So you come to this amusement pleasure planet where we can recreate your imagining. So your imaginations, whatever you imagine, will come to life, and it's all for your enjoyment. Don't be scared, because these things actually can't kill you. You're in no real danger, so have fun with it. And I'll tell you why. I will tell you why he didn't do this. Because there would be no plot in this episode. There would be no fake tension in this episode if he did this. That's the only reason. There is no logical in-universe reason as to why he wouldn't do that. This lame excuse is, oh, I didn't know, I didn't realize. Of course you did. Like, how can you be in control of this whole planet and be this advanced species and purposely go around, like, scanning these people's brains and have no idea that they're actually fearful for their lives and they're freaking the fuck out? You know. There's no in-universe reason for this shit to happen. So I call bullshit on this entire plot. I call bullshit on this entire premise. It is just not true. And why is it that they're only creating stuff that could kill them and their fears? Like, alright, the only exception is Kirk. Because Kirk sees Ruth earlier, which, that's not going to kill him. And Finnegan, yeah, he beats the shit out of him, but it's not really in any actual danger. And, okay, there's another exception. That's when I didn't look up her name. Was it Chambers? But the yeoman of the episode that I suppose might have originally been written as Rand, but changed, of course, after they wrote her off the show. But the yeoman of the episode comes across this gown, like this weird, old style princess, whatever, dressing gown, and so that's not putting her life in danger. And oh yeah, then there's Don Juan, who it looks like is trying to rape her. Like, why would she imagine that? Why would she want that? So other than Kirk seeing Ruth and Finnegan and then the gown, everything else is actively trying to kill them. The tiger, the fighter jet plane, the samurai, the Black Knight with the freaking jousting thing, who actually does manage to kill McCoy. There's the gun too that Sulu finds, but he could actually kill someone else with it, unless they have safeguards to make it so he couldn't kill anyone. But anyway, but even the gun, that's deadly, so I'm not going to count that as something that can't kill you, because it could. So everything that they're imagining is actively trying to kill them. That makes no sense. If the purpose of the plan is for them to enjoy themselves, Why don't they manufacture other things? Maybe there's other things they're thinking about. Okay, the rabbit. I forgot about the rabbit in the Alice in Wonderland. That wasn't actively trying to kill them. So do more stuff like that. Why don't they do shit like that? Like and Ruth and shit. They should have. All the stuff should have been like that. There shouldn't have been like shit that was actively trying to kill them. So that was there as a plot contrivance to artificially create tension when in fact no tension exists, and at the end of the episode they just go, it's only a game, and try to come up with this BS excuse of how they were never in danger in the first place. No. I call massive bullshit on that. Now, leaving that aside, and that is my biggest issue with the episode, but getting into more of the minute details, yeah, I don't know. They're trying to do like this kind of romance between McCoy and this yeoman where all of a sudden it seems to come out of nowhere, or all of a sudden like he's flirting with her hard out, which seems like inappropriate for a superior officer to be doing to a subordinate. And for some reason she's receptive, and they find this gown in the middle of the jungle, and McCoy's like, why don't you go put it on? And this is when they're like fearful of their lives, and they're like thinking there's everything trying to kill them, and they don't have contact with the ship. And McCoy thinks it's a good idea to play dress up. I'm sorry, but you are a bad Starfleet officer, McCoy. This portrays it, and the fact that the yeoman actually goes, oh sure, I'll do it, go ahead. She's a bad Starfleet officer. Dude, like, what the hell are they doing? Fucking around when there's a life and death situation going on. I couldn't imagine the TNG crew doing this. I'm sorry, but I couldn't. And, alright, so in the episode The Naked Time, they originally wanted to give Sulu a, like, samurai sword. And he's like, no, let's not do this stupid Asian stereotype, like give me a fencing sword, let's make it like a Three Musketeer thing, so you don't have to always focus on the fact that I'm Asian. And that's, you know, that was a very good thing, and they went around with it. But apparently in this episode they're like, outright, nah, fuck that, we're gonna do the Asian stereotype, we're gonna have you, and it's Sulu. Now it does appear later on, but it's mainly Sulu when it first appears. We're gonna have you chased by a samurai warrior. So yeah, we're definitely gonna be doing that Asian stereotype. I don't care what the fuck you say. So there's that. Alright, there is the I think this happened a couple times. This happened with Kevin O'Reilly in The Conscience of the King, where they cast this actor to play this role that had a different name, but then they realized, wait a second, this is the same actor to play that other character, so let's just say he's the same actor. So that happened here with Angela Martine, who was actually written as, I lost it, but it was Kelly something in the script, but then they cast the same actress who played Angela Martine from Balance of Terror, and as they were filming it, they were like, oh yeah, that's right, she played this other character in another episode, let's just say she's that character. So then they started calling her Angela. I think if I read the thing, there's a line where Kirk calls her by the original script name, and that, I don't know if they cut that out of the episode or not, or if that's still there. But that's because that's the name that was originally written by. So if we are meant to believe this is Angela Martine, seen in Balance of Terror, which was just like, 8 or so episodes ago, not that long ago. In fact, I think when they aired these episodes, they aired a lot closer together. But with the production-wise, it was like 8 episodes later. But so we're meant to believe this is the same character who had was really in the process, was at a wedding, about to get married, and her fiance to be died, and just a couple weeks later she's just hanging out with this other dude and hanging on him and being all flirty with him. It's not a good look. I don't know. It seems like she just recovered and we know why this was, because they did not intend for this to be the same character. They just cast the same actress and then realized this during the shooting. I was like, oh yeah, this is the same actress we cast. So let's just say she's doesn't give a fuck about her dead husband that she was about to marry. Now she's hanging off this other dude who's less attractive, by the way. But I'm not judging you on that anyway. But anywho, and yeah, this other dude who we only see for this one episode, who apparently gets kicks by being chased by tigers and being shot down by planes. And here's another point I was going to make about her, is that I had to pay really, really close attention to the ending to realize that she was brought back to life. Because they make a point at the end to show that McCoy was brought back to life. He's the main character, of course. We need to know, like, Kirk thought he was dead, and then all of a sudden he's out hanging with these hot chicks. And he was like, "Oh, I'm fine, Jim. This plan is great. I don't mind that I was like stabbed in the chest and freaking died. I love this plan." But the whole time I was thinking, well, what about Martine? Because she was shot down by a fighter jet plane, and they made a point of showing that and showing her get killed by this plane. And I was like, well, but they don't make a point of showing that she's actually fine. And I was like, well, I guess we could assume from their tone and what they're saying, and since McCoy was fine, that she was probably fine too. But I think they should have actually shown it. But when I paid very, very close attention, in fact, I pretty much had to pause to see this, is that you can see her very briefly in the background of a shot that's focused more on Spock standing there at the end. Like, she wasn't there before, she just like appears, and unceremoniously, nobody calls attention to this, and in fact she's like in the background. I pretty much had to pause the streaming service in order to see it. How come no one made a big deal when she came back to life? I'm like, oh, why did that, especially that dude that was flirting with her, well, why didn't he be like, "Oh, Angela, you're okay"? They didn't show any of that. Instead, just like barely showed her in the background. So as far as, you know, didn't make any difference about her dying. But anyway, oh yeah, and the whole thing at the start with Kirk like refusing to go down the shore leave, I bought that for Picard in the episode Captain's Holiday, because that seems like in Picard's character. I don't really buy it for Kirk. It seems like Kirk would like to enjoy in shore leave a bit too much. Now, then we get Ruth, which brings up something that I would like to do. And I guess I'll do it in real time now. Something I'm going to keep track of going forward with my original series review. I'm going to keep a running count of how many ex-lovers Kirk runs into. And it should be noted that apparently Kirk is still in love with all of his exes, or at least his exes are in love with him, or they're really cordial. That, you know, that makes Kirk the most unrealistic character in existence. How many people can say that they're still on good terms and was still partially in love and could re-spark a relationship with all of their exes? I would guess not very many. I think that's completely fictional. But anyway, so let me see. Let me go through this episode to see when Kirk ran into an ex-lover. Well, that was McCoy in the Man Trap, so that doesn't count. I think McCoy doesn't do it nearly as much as Kirk does. Kirk does it a freaking lot. Alright, Dagger of the Mind, that's one. So you could say they never actually hooked up. They were kind of just flirting with each other, maybe when they hooked up. But she had a massive crush on him, so I'm counting that. Dagger of the Mind's one. Let's see. Court Martial, the prosecutor who prosecuted him, was an ex-lover, and they actually kissed. At the end, Kirk was like flirting with her hard out when they met up. So that's definitely two. And then Shore Leave is three. Well, Shore Leave he conjured Ruth. It's not like she actually ran into her. It's not the real Ruth, but I'm still counting it because it shows there's another ex-lover. It's, in fact, Ruth is the ex-lover that he conjured, that he had the biggest feelings for. So I guess that, you know, he's just doesn't really give that much of a shit about the woman from court martial. He's just using her for sex, I suppose. And so because Ruth is the one he really had the hard feelings. That's who he imagined, who he conjured. So that's 3 so far. So I want to keep a running count, and I think this will probably end when I get to Star Trek. Although Star Trek 2 is going to be more of a revisited thing, so I'll do the tally before I get there. Well, I'll count Star Trek 2 though. So 3 ex-lovers so far that Kirk has fond feelings for, or they have fond feelings for him. And here's the thing, like, I've heard arguments recently that Kirk isn't really a womanizer or a ladies' man, or he isn't like promiscuous, and I disagree with those claims. I'm sorry, especially watching these. As I said, he has so many lovers that he can't like really be truly in love and want like a serious relationship with all of them. He's using them for sex, especially that one from court martial. It's very obvious he was just flirting with her heart out. He just wanted to get in her pants and nothing more. He is definitely promiscuous. I don't care what anyone says, but anyway. Anyway, let's talk about someone on the topic of Kirk's imaginings. Let's talk about Finnegan, who, when I did this video that Brandon Howells, a Patreon supporter, requested a while back on why Star Trek always stereotypes the Irish, and I had different sections, things where I talked about when they had like different Irish stereotypes. There was the Voyager one with the stupid pub, and of course the TNG Up the Long Ladder was the worst offender. But this one with Finnegan, I actually put it quite low. I don't think it's that much of an Irish stereotype. I think the main thing that makes it come off as because he just happens to be this bully with an Irish accent. I think the main thing that makes it feel like stereotypical is the Irish music they have playing whenever he shows up. That's what makes it seem like they're kind of, roping in. And plus, this is a bad Irish accent. It's not played by an Irish actor. That too. But other than that, I don't think it's bad, especially when compared to other things like Up the Long Ladder, which was just horrendous. But anyway, yeah. And then you have Spock continuing to say he has no use of vacations and rest. He's like, when we rest, we just rest. I don't understand the concept of running up and down hills. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess it does make sense for Vulcan, but they're, of course, missing out. Yeah, and I think that's all I wanted to cover about this episode. Anyway, so let me move on to thank the patrons that support my channel. Thank you so much for everyone who supports it. It's very much appreciated and helps the channel keep going. So there's Anthony D. Benedictus, Ricky, Matty Jester, Joel Avals, Brian A., Alessandro Miglasio, Norman Buckwald, Stephen Kennedy, Brenton Berg, Allison Fordyce, Brandon House. Thank you so much, so much for your support. Very much appreciated. So now, let's move on to Patreon comments. All the patrons I just mentioned have the option of leaving a comment on this episode. We have 2 on this one. First one's from Matty Jester, who says, this episode is bonkers. A giant rabbit, Sulu firing a gun, McCoy getting jousted to death, a Kirk fight scene that goes on longer than that one from They Live. If you're in the mood for silly, this episode is for you, but I find it a bit too much, but not terrible. 5 out of 10. I'm not that familiar with They Live. In fact, I don't think I ever watched the whole thing all the way through. I just know the line about the bubble gum and kick-ass and bubble gum and a lot of bubble gum, and about how it was like it was commentary on advertising and shit. We studied that in like a media studies class, but I don't think I've ever actually seen it, so I'm not aware that there was a fight scene that went on for extra long from that film. But I will say, yes, that fight scene with Kirk and Finnegan did go on for way too long. I definitely agree with that. So anyway, next comment is from Brendan Howes that says, "Shore leave. Kirk is embarrassed by women unless they're old girlfriends, of course, and everyone's mediocre fantasies come true. Angela Martin sure got over that death of her fiancé in Balance of Terror really quickly. Too 60s, too silly, and far too many ripped tunics. I still maintain that Star Trek hates the Irish. 3 white rabbits out of 10. Yeah, 2 60s and 2 silly is also the same point I made. Too many ripped tunics is a good point. Of course, I mean, they just always have to have, Kirk always has to have his shirt off. But I think the yeoman got her tunic ripped as well, if I recall. So, Brendan's comment about the embarrassed by women speaks to a scene I forgot to mention, which I hated the scene. I thought it was so dumb, where Kirk was like, his back was aching and he wanted it rubbed, and Spock was behind him, so he thought Spock was rubbing him, but it was actually the human. And Kirk was like, "Oh yeah, that's it, that's the Spock, there you go, Mr. Spock," until Spock steps in front of him and he realizes that it's the yeoman who's doing it, and he freaks out. He's like, "Oh, that's enough, yeoman, stop it." So he's embarrassed by women touching him, but he's all good with seeing his ex-lover. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's, again, this speaks to like kind of this sort of sexist vibe we get from the original series, and that Kirk is like, doesn't like working with women, doesn't like having them around because he can't control his wild hormones. That's what I get from this, and that's why I don't like it. But anywho, let's get to my rating for Shore Leave. And my rating for Shore Leave out of 10 is a 3, very poor. Yes, I'm going to agree with Brandon on this one. In fact, I was really thinking of giving this episode a 2. Oh God, maybe am I going to change this to a 2? Do I deserve to give this? No, I'll keep it a 3. It's a very low 3, though, close to a 2. It's not a good episode. I really don't like it. I agree with Brandon. It was too silly. It was too 60s. It was not particularly funny or fun for me. The premise is total bullshit. It is I should do a countdown one of these days of the most contrived episodes in Star Trek. I think this would be number 3, behind what's it called? God, Bada Bing, Bada Bang, and Bride of Chaotica. I think Bada Bing would be number 1. Bride of Chaotica would be, well, Bride of Chaotica was more contrived, but is not as terrible as an episode as Bada Bing, Bada Bang. So maybe I put Bada Bing, Bada Bang at number 1, and Bride of Chaotica is number 2, and this is number 3, and then number 4, maybe that episode of Prodigy that just aired for me yesterday. Yeah, the one, well, this is coming out several months after, so I should specify. It's the one where the Prodigy crew had a chance to like tell Janeway what was going on, but they didn't do it because the plot needed to happen. God, that pissed me off so much. But anywho, yeah, so it was one of the most contrived. Yeah, I think this episode is more contrived than that, to be fair. Like, I think why the hell didn't that guy just come up and let them know what was going on in the first place? There's no reason. Any reason you try to come up with other than the writers need the plot to happen is nonsense to me. I don't accept it. That's the only reason. The writers suck at their job, and they just wanted to have this excuse for having suspense in this episode, even though it makes no fucking sense why the dude wouldn't just come up in the first place and let them know what's going on. But anyway, that's it for me. Do I really want to give this a 3, not a 2? Yeah, no, I'll keep it the 3. But it's very close to a 2. Anyway, that's it for my review of Shore Leave. So coming up next on my channel, let's see where I'm at here. Wednesday will be, so all revisited for the rest of the weeks because the next 3 episodes I already reviewed. So Wednesday will be Squire of Gothas revisited, Thursday will be Arena revisited, and then Saturday will be the Alternative Factor revisited. These are all be, of course, on Patreon for my Patreon supporters, where I revisit the episodes that I've already reviewed. Alternative Factor will be a good one. And then I shall return next week, next Monday, with a new review for everyone to see on my channel, and that is Tomorrow is Yesterday. So that will be the next new review I shall be doing. In the meantime, for Patreon supporters, we'll revisit all those other lovely episodes. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this channel, and if you would like to support me on Patreon, of course, there's a link in the description below. Any sort of donation you can do is extremely appreciated, and as I said, helps the channel to keep on trucking. So anyway, thanks so much for watching this, and make sure to subscribe as I continue to cover Star Trek the Original Series and many more other videos and reviews and whatnot to come. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.